Before diving into this incredible story, consider subscribing to the channel and hitting the bell. Every story here has something to say, and you won't want to miss a single one. Rain fell in thin curtains over the city, lit by neon lights and car headlights. A young woman walked alone through the nearly deserted streets, clutching her coat. Her modest shoes let the water in, but she didn't complain. After all, she was used to life's little miseries, to anonymity, to invisibility. Cinderella had never believed in fairy tales. She knew the harsh reality, demanding bosses, endless days, and dreams that often had to be buried to survive. Yet something inside her refused to give up. She wanted to believe that a miracle could exist, even in the concrete and glass of skyscrapers. That evening, as she was leaving the top-floor office, a scream rang out. Like a flash in the darkness, it froze her in place. Without thinking, her instincts took over. She ran toward the danger, ignoring the fear and the rain seeping into her clothes. And there, in the slippery hall, she saw the man fall, his gaze frozen in panic. Cinderella leaped. Her hands reached out just in time to catch him, break the fall, save a life. He sat up, panting, soaked, and shocked. His eyes met hers, and for the first time, Cinderella felt she wasn't invisible. This powerful, respected man, this CEO everyone either admired or feared, had just crossed her path irreversibly. "Thank you," he breathed, his voice choked with emotion. "It's nothing," she whispered, unaware that this moment had just changed their destiny forever. And so, unbeknownst to her, a modern fairy tale had begun, a tale where courage could break through loneliness, and where love was born in the flashes of an unexpected moment. The next morning, Cinderella woke up with a strange feeling. Her arms still hurt a little from the graze she'd sustained saving Alexander the day before, but it was nothing compared to the turmoil boiling in her chest. She couldn't get the image of his piercing blue eyes, his voice choked with surprise, his grateful smile out of her mind. At the office, life was returning to its usual rhythm, urgent emails, files to process, phone calls. But this morning, an unexpected event shook up his monotonous world. The CEO himself, Alexander Stone, came down from his office in an impeccably tailored suit. He stopped in front of her desk, scrutinizing every detail of her face as if trying to decipher her. "Cinderella," he said in a calm but firm voice. "I want to talk to you." The other employees, surprised, fell silent. Even in the largest offices, there are moments when the world seems to stand still, and this was exactly the case. Cinderella felt her heart race. She nodded, unable to utter a word. Alexander led her into an empty conference room, away from prying eyes. The atmosphere was strange, the glass walls let in the gray morning light, but there was a palpable warmth between them. "Yesterday, you saved my life," he continued, his eyes never leaving hers. "You didn't just show courage, you changed my way of seeing things. I don't want this meeting to be a mere coincidence." Cinderella looked down in confusion. She was just one of hundreds of assistants, an ordinary young woman with modest dreams. How could a man like Alexander be interested in her? "Alexander." She whispered. "I'm not." "It doesn't matter what you are or what you think you are," he said gently. "I want to get to know you. Not as my CEO or my assistant, but as you, Cinderella." A shiver ran down her spine. The world she knew, made of hierarchies and routines, had just cracked. And somewhere, deep inside her, a small hope she had almost forgotten was reborn. That day, nothing would ever be the same again. The unexpected encounter in the company lobby was no mere accident. It was the beginning of a modern-day tale where courage, destiny, and love would intertwine in unexpected ways. After that unexpected encounter in the conference room, Cinderella returned to her desk, her heart still pounding. Every ring, every click of the mouse seemed amplified. She couldn't help but think back to the way Alexander had looked at her, the intensity of his gaze, the gentleness of his words. A few days later, Alexander invited Cinderella to lunch at a small, discreet restaurant a few blocks from the office. She hesitated for a moment, aware of the difference in status between them, but curiosity and a strange confidence won out. The restaurant was warm, lit by dim lamps. Alexander spoke little at first, observing Cinderella with unusual attention. This wasn't the curiosity of a boss about his employee, it was something deeper, almost protective. "You know, Cinderella," he said finally, putting down his fork, "I've never met anyone so authentic. Everyone around me is playing a role. But you're real." Cinderella felt her cheeks flush. She wanted to look away, but there was something in his voice that held her back. "Thank you," she replied softly. I'm not used to this kind of attention." Alexander smiled slightly, as if understanding her hesitation. "This is no ordinary attention, Cinderella. I want to get to know you, really. I want to know what makes you smile, what makes you sad, what excites you." Hours passed without them noticing. They talked about everything and nothing: books, music, childhood memories. For the first time in a long time, Cinderella felt listened to, understood. But despite this budding complicity, a part of her remained wary. She knew that Alexander's world was complicated, filled with responsibilities, social events, and critical scrutiny. And could she, a simple assistant, really find her place in this world? "I know it's not easy," Alexander murmured, discreetly taking her hand. "But I want you to know one thing," he said with an intensity that made her heart beat faster: "I won't let you go." Cinderella felt a mixture of fear and hope. For the first time, she found herself imagining a different future, a future where she could be loved for who she truly was, without masks or compromise. And as she left the restaurant that evening, she knew that a new chapter had just been written in her life, a chapter where the unexpected and courage could transform a simple encounter into a true modern fairy tale. In the following days, Alexander's presence in Cinderella's life became more tangible. He sent her messages, invited her to share impromptu coffees in the office, and always found an excuse to extend their conversations. Every moment spent with him aroused in her a mixture of joy and apprehension. But reality would soon set in. Some colleagues began to whisper and cast prying glances. In the cutthroat world of business, seeing the CEO take an interest in a mere assistant would breed jealousy and rumors. "You know," one of her colleagues said, approaching with a fake smile, "he's not interested in just anyone. You'd better not get your hopes up too much." Cinderella simply nodded, but inside, a storm was brewing. She loved Alexander, but she feared that this world, so far removed from her own, would eventually tear them apart. One evening, while they were working late together, Alexander seemed to sense her doubts. "Cinderella," he murmured, "I know it's difficult, everyone around us is watching, judging, whispering. But I don't want this to make you doubt us." She looked down, unable to answer immediately. I don't know if I can," she said finally, her voice trembling. "I'm afraid our lives are too different." Alexander placed his hand on hers, with a gentleness that melted her fear for a moment. "So let me show you that it's not about rank, wealth, or power. Let me show you that what matters is us. Nothing else." Despite his reassuring words, the tension remained palpable. Cinderella understood that to continue moving forward with him, she would have to face not only her own fears, but also the obstacles of the outside world. Rumors, stares, judgments, all of these things could tear them apart if she let fear guide her choices. That evening, as she left the office, she looked out the window at the night sky. The city lights shone like artificial stars. She understood that, just like them, her relationship with Alexander had to shine despite the darkness surrounding it. And as she walked home, a new feeling washed over her, a mixture of fear and determination. If she wanted this modern fairy tale to have a chance, she had to dare to believe that love could triumph, even in the most unlikely circumstances. As the weeks passed, Cinderella and Alexander's relationship slowly strengthened. Impromptu lunches, late-night chats at the office, and small, thoughtful gestures had created a fragile but precious bond. Yet the outside world was never far away, and fate seemed determined to test their complicity. One morning, as she arrived at the office, Cinderella received news that shook her balance, a leak in the local press announced that the CEO had been spotted with a mysterious assistant. Speculative headlines and malicious comments multiplied on social media. Even colleagues were whispering behind her back. Cinderella felt her heart sink. She had always wanted to keep a low profile, but now everyone knew her name, and her connection to Alexander was becoming public knowledge. She hesitated to enter the office, dreading the stares of others and her beloved. Alexander, on the other hand, had heard the news before her. As soon as he saw her, he rushed towards her, his face marked with worry. "Cinderella," he whispered, taking her hands, "I know what you're thinking. Don't let these rumors tear us apart. I assure you, what matters is us, not what others say." But Cinderella shook her head, tears in her eyes. "Alexander. I don't know if I can handle all this. The stares, the judgments. I've always lived in the shadows, and now I feel vulnerable." Alexander gently took her in his arms, holding her close. "Listen to me, Cinderella. You saved my life, and now I want to protect you. I want you by my side, not just because you're strong, but because you are you. No matter what anyone says." These words touched Cinderella deeply. She realized that their bond wasn't just based on the moment she saved him, but on something deeper: trust, respect, and mutual affection. Yet she knew she had to make a choice. She could back down and let fear win, or she could face the stares, the judgments, and continue to believe in what they had built together. That evening, as she walked home, she made a silent but determined decision. She wouldn't run away. She would choose love, even if it was fraught with danger. And somewhere deep down, she felt that Alexander would do the same. Their fragile but courageous story had just passed its first major test. And for the first time, Cinderella understood that modern fairy tales were not made of magic, but of courage, trust, and bold choices. In the following weeks, Cinderella and Alexander seemed to have found a delicate balance. They shared stolen moments in everyday life, supporting each other despite prying eyes and persistent rumors. Yet, as in any modern fairy tale, fate was never far from wreaking havoc. One morning, Cinderella received an anonymous message, a veiled threat, implying that some people around Alexander didn't want her near him. Her heart sank. She had hoped their relationship could remain free of jealousy and intrigue, but reality had just reminded her that their world wasn't simple. Shaking, she immediately went to the office and found Alexander already informed of the situation. His face, usually calm and collected, was marked by concern. "Cinderella," he said softly, "I know it's scary, but I don't want you to change who you are because of it." She shook her head, tears welling up in her eyes. "I don't want to feel like an obstacle. I don't want you to get into trouble because of me." Alexander placed a hand on her cheek, looking straight into her eyes. "You're not an obstacle. You're what makes me better. And if anyone thinks otherwise, then they've missed the point. I refuse to lose you because of fear or hatred from others." Despite his reassuring words, Cinderella knew the threat wasn't just a warning. Someone was truly trying to interfere in their relationship, and the shadow of that reality weighed heavily on them. That evening, as they worked late together to escape prying eyes, Alexander took Cinderella's hand and held it tightly. "No matter what stands in our way," he said determinedly, "we will face it all together. But I want you to remember one thing: if you decide to run, I won't leave you." Cinderella felt her heart race. Fear mingled with a sense of security she had never known. She understood that their love was not a mere passing love, but a force capable of defying obstacles, rumors, and hatred. And as she left the office that evening, her hands intertwined with Alexander's, she knew their story had crossed a new threshold. Their modern fairy tale was no longer based solely on chance or courage; it was now a conscious choice to stay together, despite the dangers and hardships ahead. A few days after the anonymous threat, an unexpected event shook Cinderella and Alexander's budding relationship. While they were having lunch together in the relative calm of a discreet cafe, Alexander received a call that immediately changed the atmosphere. His face closed, his features tensed, and a heavy silence fell. "It's complicated," he murmured after hanging up, avoiding Cinderella's gaze. She felt anxiety rising. From the beginning, she had agreed to embark on this affair with him, but she had never imagined that a secret from Alexander's past would come knocking at their door. "Alexander, she asked softly, "what's going on?" He took a deep breath, as if to gather the courage to speak. "There's something I need to tell you," he said, his eyes boring into hers. "My family, let's just say there are some people around me who don't want me to be happy. And they might complicate things for you." Cinderella felt her heart sink, but she forced herself to stay calm. "It doesn't matter what it is, Alexander. I want to be by your side, no matter the obstacles," she said with conviction. Alexander looked at her for a long time, moved by her courage and determination. "You understand, it's not just you and me. There are stakes, responsibilities, pressures you can't even imagine. And I don't want to put you in danger." Cinderella took his hand and squeezed it. "If I saved you once, I can face whatever comes next. I won't run away, Alexander. No matter what the world throws our way, I'll stay by your side." A faint smile crossed his face. For the first time in a long time, he felt that someone was willing to understand and accept him, unconditionally. But this temporary reconciliation only precipitated the arrival of a new ordeal. As they left the café, a familiar but menacing figure watched them from a distance. Someone Alexander knew could turn everything upside down slowly walked towards them. Cinderella felt a wave of tension wash over her. She knew their modern fairy tale had entered a dangerous phase, where courage and trust would be their only weapons to stay together. And as the figure approached, Cinderella and Alexander's world seemed to darken, heralding a storm that would test their love like never before. The approaching figure was Vanessa, Alexander's former associate, known for her boundless ambition and stubborn grudge. The moment she laid eyes on Cinderella, a cold smile played on her lips. She hadn't come to argue, but to sow chaos. "Alexander," she whispered icily, "it seems you've found yourself a new protégé." Cinderella felt her stomach clench. She had heard about Vanessa from Alexander, but she had never imagined a direct confrontation so soon. "Vanessa," Alexander said calmly but firmly, "I don't want any conflict. Leave us alone." "Oh, I don't think that's possible," Vanessa replied with a sarcastic smile. "You've changed, Alexander, and I can't let you waste your legacy for someone like her." Cinderella felt a wave of anger and fear wash over her. The world she had longed to join seemed to be pushing her away. Yet she didn't back down. "Listen to me, Vanessa," she said with a firmness she didn't know she possessed. "I'm not an obstacle. And I'm not going to run away. If your problem is with him, you need to resolve it directly with him, not with me." Alexander looked at her, surprised and moved by her courage. Vanessa seemed to hesitate for a moment, but her icy smile strengthened. "Very well, but know that the game is only just beginning. You two are going to see what it means to play with fire." Vanessa walked away, leaving behind a heavy, ominous silence. Cinderella felt the tension ease slightly, but she knew it was only a warning. "You were amazing," Alexander murmured, his hand squeezing hers. "But I know this is just the beginning. I will stay by your side, no matter what," Cinderella replied determinedly. "I will not run away." Alexander pulled her into his arms, feeling for the first time that despite the obstacles, their bond was growing stronger, more resilient. But deep down, he knew Vanessa wouldn't give up so easily, and that the real storm was yet to come. That evening, as they walked home together, Cinderella realized that their love was no longer just a modern fairy tale of sweetness and courage. It would have to face storms, intrigues, and difficult choices. And for the first time, she felt that the true test of their bond had just begun. The days following Vanessa's appearance were tense. Rumors, suspicious glances, and malicious insinuations multiplied. Every gesture, every word exchanged between Cinderella and Alexander was scrutinized and commented on. The outside pressure was beginning to weigh heavily on them. One afternoon, while they were working in the top-floor office, Alexander received an urgent call that forced him to leave the room in a hurry. Cinderella was left alone, her heart heavy, with a sinking feeling that something was about to go wrong. A few hours later, she learned from a colleague that Vanessa had taken advantage of Alexander's absence to spread compromising information about him. Social media and some local media outlets had spread the rumor, insinuating that Cinderella was only seeing Alexander for his position and wealth. Cinderella felt anger and humiliation wash over her. She had done everything with sincerity, but now doubts seemed to be creeping into the minds of others, and perhaps into her own as well. When Alexander returned, his face was marked by frustration and sadness. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "I thought we could avoid this kind of conflict." Cinderella stood up and looked him straight in the eyes. "Alexander, I believe in you. I believe in us. No matter what anyone says, I won't run away. But I want you to trust me. I'm not here to take advantage of you or your power. I'm here because I love you." A tense silence fell, then Alexander approached and took her in his arms. "Thank you," he said finally. "Thank you for staying by my side through thick and thin. I realize now that our bond is stronger than any rumor, stronger than fear." Yet Cinderella knew it wasn't over. Vanessa wouldn't give up so easily, and every step toward their happiness seemed to bring new challenges. But one thing was clear: they had to fight together, and their love had to be based on mutual trust. That night, as they stood side by side in the darkness, a sense of strength and determination washed over them. The storms outside might roar, but as long as they held on to each other, no obstacle could separate them. Their modern fairy tale, fragile but courageous, had just reached a new milestone. From now on, they knew that love was not just a feeling, but a daily choice, a commitment in the face of the trials and threats of the real world. A few weeks later, just when Cinderella and Alexander thought they had regained some peace, a new event disrupted their daily lives. During a charity event organized by the company, an unforeseen incident put Alexander's life in danger. An attempted accident was foiled at the last minute, but the anxiety and fear left a deep mark on Cinderella. "Alexander, you could have." She whispered, her voice trembling. "I know," he said softly, taking her in his arms. "But I'm here. And you're the one who taught me courage, Cinderella. You saved me once, and I never want to lose you again." The tension of the evening, the fear and adrenaline had created an even stronger bond between them. Cinderella realized that every trial, every threat, every rumor had only strengthened their love. They had weathered storms together and emerged more united. Later, in the quiet of his apartment, Alexander took Cinderella's hand and looked straight into her eyes. "Cinderella," he whispered, "I want no more half measures, no more fear. I want you by my side, fully, now and forever. Marry me, and don't run away." Cinderella felt her heart race. All the fears, all the worries of the past weeks seemed to disappear. She knew this moment was real, that this choice was hers as much as his. "Yes. I won't run away," she replied with emotion, tears in her eyes. "Yes, Alexander. I love you, and I want to be with you, despite everything." Alexander held her close, as if to seal their promise. For the first time since the beginning of this adventure, they felt that nothing and no one could separate them. Their love, forged in adversity and hardship, was now indestructible. That night, Cinderella realized that modern fairy tales weren't about magic, but about courage, trust, and bold choices. And she knew that whatever the future held, she and Alexander would be ready to weather every storm together. The months that followed were filled with challenges, small tensions, and shared moments that strengthened their love every day. Cinderella and Alexander had learned to protect each other, to support each other despite obstacles, and to ignore the whispers of the outside world. Each challenge they faced brought them closer, transforming their relationship into a strong, deep, and authentic bond. One evening, Alexander invited Cinderella to dinner at a romantic restaurant, far from the hustle and bustle of business and gossip. Candlelight illuminated their table, and for the first time, Cinderella felt a rare serenity settle over her. "Cinderella," Alexander said, taking her hand, "every moment spent with you has shown me what love truly means. You had the courage to save me, to understand me, and to stay by my side through the storms. Cinderella smiled, feeling an emotion she had never felt before. Alexander, she whispered, I never believed in fairy tales, until I met you. He looked at her intensely, his eyes shining with sincerity. Then let's make our own fairy tale, he said with a smile. A tale based on courage, trust, and love. Marry me, forever. Cinderella felt her heart pound. Memories of all the past trials, Vanessa's threats, rumors, and moments of doubt, mingled with a feeling of victory and happiness. Yes, yes, Alexander, she replied, tears in her eyes. I will never run away. I want to be with you, now and forever. They kissed, sealing their promise. This moment was not only the conclusion of a budding love, but the victory of determination, trust, and courage. In the following weeks, their union became official. The obstacles that had once seemed insurmountable had transformed into mere trials that they had overcome together. And even as the world continued to watch and murmur, Cinderella and Alexander knew one simple and powerful truth: their love was indestructible, for it had been forged in the fire of adversity and the courage of true hearts. Cinderella smiled, looking at Alexander, and finally thought that modern fairy tales do exist, but they require more than magic. They require courage, trust, and the strength to never run away from true love. And so, Cinderella and Alexander began their life together, ready to face each new challenge, hand in hand, their hearts filled with deserved happiness and eternal promise.